So here we are, basically a week away from the start of the Six Nations. Warren Gatland's going to name his team to face France on Friday next week, the beginning of the week. But I thought I'd do my favourite thing. This is always the favourite videos I make on this channel, and that is pick my 23 matchday squad. And then you guys get to pick it apart in the comments and tell me where I'm wrong or where you think I'm right. Possibly probably my most controversial team that I've picked since I've started this channel with, but there's a lot of selection in the air, so I don't know if it is controversial. There's a lot of positions up for grabs as far as I see it, so I think there could be a few changes, but let's get into it. My name's Christian and this is the Welsh Sports channel. So as I always do, I'll begin with the forwards and I'm going to go straight with number one, and that is Nicky Smith. I think Gatland will go with Gareth Thomas, and I can understand why. I wouldn't be mad if Gareth Thomas was starting. He's excellent around the park, but I think Nicky Smith gives that extra solidity at scrum time. The scrum has been such an issue for us over the last 2 years at least, and we're getting dominated up front and we're just about holding on and constantly giving away penalties at scrum time. So I think Nicky Smith, he had a decent autumn, having a good season since he's moved to Leicester, and I think his performance in the autumn warranted him getting an opportunity to start. I just think go with the strongest scrummaging pack you can go with, or at least for the two props. So number one will be Nicky Smith. I think Gatland will go with Gareth Thomas though, but like I said, I won't be too mad at that because Gareth Thomas is an excellent player. Hooker then obviously has been a glut of injuries. Dewi Lake out, which is so devastating. But Elliot D has come back to fitness. He's only played a couple of games, but quite senior, got quite a lot of caps now. The only other options are Parry, which, you know, is not a bad option. He's got the nuts and bolts, but Elliot D's got some experience. His line out is generally pretty good, although on the weekend was a bit misfiring. But other than that, I thought he had another one who had a good Six Nations last year with all of the rubbish that was going on. I thought he was one of the better players, and we look like we found someone to come in when Lake is injured, which obviously he is. And then at tight head, I'm going to go with Henry Thomas. There's a lot of debate about this position. I have a feeling Gatland may go for Azarati because he didn't use Henry Thomas at all in the autumn. Not sure why that exactly is, but again, it's the same logic as I'm going with Nicky Smith. He's probably or in my opinion, he's the best scrummager at tight head that we've got in the squad. I know he's a bit older and, you know, he's not really building for the future, but he's better at scrummaging than Azarati, and then I guess you can bring Azarati on when bodies get more tired. He's a bit better in the loose than Azarati and could potentially offer you more there. So that would be my front row. Then the second row, going to go with Rowlands. Didn't have the best autumn, but he's got a lot of experience, and we need experience in the team. Give him a chance. You know, maybe he was a little bit undercooked, or he was lacking a bit of fitness, or he had a niggle or something in the autumn. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt, and hopefully he steps it up this autumn because we need. You know, he's a big player. He's a leader in that team now. He's got over 50 caps, and we need him to start producing like he was in the World Cup. In the World Cup, he was excellent. He was one of our standout players. So if you can bring that form, it really gives us a chance. And then at 5, this one I really struggled with because I love Dav Jenkins, and in my head when I was thinking of this squad, he was going to be in the team. He's got that bit of experience where he's been around for a while, got that leadership qualities, but Exeter have been terrible. I think they've won one game in the league all season, and he's barely played all year as well, just coming back to fitness, so very little rugby under his belt. And I think, again, Gatland's going to go with him, and I wouldn't be mad at that because I think he's an excellent player and he's going to be in that position going for the future. But I'm going to give Teddy Williams a shot if it was up to me. He's been super. He's started every game for Cardiff in the league this year, and he has been excellent for them. Everything we've needed, or Cardiff have needed, he's provided. He's now become the line-out caller, so he's got that sort of leadership in that aspect. If they want someone to call a line-out, he can do it. And I think I always sing his praises on yours, so I think it would be hypocritical for me if I didn't go with him. But I think Gatland will go with Dav Jenkins, and I wouldn't be mad because I do actually love Dav Jenkins. It's just he hasn't played much rugby, so I would give Teddy a shot. And then the back row, this is taking it for granted that everyone's fit, but by the reports, everyone is fit. So we're going to go with Wainwright at 6, Jack Morgan at 7, and then Faletau at 8. I don't think there's much I need to really talk about with these guys. Obviously, you could have the debate about Faletau and Wainwright being battling for 8, and then maybe both of them at 6. But I think those are our best 3 back rowers, and that back row is really dynamic. There's plenty of experience with Faletau and Wainwright, and Morgan's got experience as well. And then there's a bit of dog, and there's just a bit of class and athleticism in there. They'll be great in the wide spaces, and hopefully they can get us some go forward ball. So that would be my back row if everyone's fit. But obviously Wainwright hasn't played a lot of minutes, neither has Faletau. But by all accounts, they're going to be fit and ready for the first game. And moving on to the back line, obviously Thomas Williams is a no-brainer. He's one of the probably very few top quality, you could even maybe call his form world class at the moment. One of the best scrum halves in Europe at the moment on form. He's tearing it up in the Premiership. He's never always kind of struggled to bring that form to Wales when he's played well in the past at club level. But I mean, there's no one else you can really pick in the squad above him. He's on some superb form at the moment. And then the 10 jersey, this is obviously caused a lot of debate on social media and in the news and rugby news and stuff like that, with there being no Anscombe. Ben Thomas actually played for 10 for Cardiff last weekend and had a good game. But for me, I'm just going to go with Dan Edwards. I rate him so highly. I've always said I don't think Ben's best position is 10. And if we're just going to go with the youngster, just get him in there and see what happens. I think he's got the minerals and the mentality and the mental capacity to be able to step up to the moment. And obviously it's going to be a big shock and we're going to expect, mistakes and stuff like that. But let's just give him a shot. If he's the only out and out 10 and he's the best option, let's get him in there. It was a tight call. I did potentially feel like I wanted Ben Thomas in there. To be honest, if Anscombe was playing, I would put Ben Thomas 12, but that is obviously not happening. So I'm going to go with Dan Edwards at 10. And I've got no clue what Gatland's going to do. It's 50-50 to me. In the centres then, I feel like if I'm going with Dan Edwards at 10, I've got to go with Watkin at 12. I don't see Owen Watkin as a 13 at all. I don't like him when he plays out there. But at 12, he's got a bit of physicality. He's got a good way of reading the game. He's going to be that familiarity and that experience outside of Dan Edwards, obviously being in the Ospreys together. And, he's possibly one of the best options that we got to play with an inexperienced 10. He's a steady Eddie, and I think he's the best option if we're going with such a young and inexperienced outside half. And then outside him, it's difficult. I would have probably gone for Llewellyn if he was in the squad, but he's not. I would just go for Roberts. They've only played one game together, granted, but when they did play together in that France game in the last Six Nations, it looked good. You saw an emergence of some chemistry and some actually creating some opportunities in wider spaces, which we've really struggled to do, and we haven't really found a centre partnership, have we? Obviously, there's not one massive big ball carrier in those two, which I would generally like, but I just think if you were putting Dan Edwards at 10, it's really hard to then put Eddie James at 12 as well. So I do like Eddie James, but I just think that partnership gives the best balance, and there is some sort of understanding where they have played together. They've gone through training weeks together in the past. So that would be my centre partnership. Then the back three, I think, is one of the more straightforward picks if everyone's fit. You go with Liam Williams at fullback, and then on the wings, Josh Adams, and then I would probably go Tommy Rogers on the right. Could make an argument for Blair Murray, but I would stick with Rogers. He played well in the autumn, had that extra bit of physicality and that extra ability under the high ball, and he had a really good game against, I can't remember whether it was Australia or South Africa, and unfortunately he had to go off with a bit of cramp or calf or something like that. But up until that point, he was probably the only good thing that Wales had in attack, so I think he warrants another chance, and Gatland seems to like him. And Blair Murray, a little bit, defence is a little bit suspect at times for me at the moment, especially against such a big physical side like France. So I would go with Tommy Rogers, and that would be my back three, and I think that's a pretty good, dangerous back three. And then the subs bench, I would actually go with a 6-2 split and have the extra forward on, because I think we could potentially compete for a lot of the game, but I worry when the forwards come on and the power comes off the bench for France, they will really struggle to keep up with that. So to mitigate that, I'm going to go with an extra forward on the bench. So I'll go with Gareth Thomas. Obviously, good chance he'll be starting, but I would go with Gareth Thomas, then Sam Parry, Kieran Azarati, and then Dav Jenkins, and then I'd go with Botham and Rafael as the two back row covers. And then the other two, which would be backs, would be Rodri Williams, because he's got a bit of experience, and just if we sort of need a bit of experience coming off the bench towards the end of the game, again, experience for Dan Edwards, or even if Ben Thomas comes on at 10, you got that experience inside of him then, and then Ben Thomas would be able to cover all those positions in the back, because he can cover 10, centre and full back, so that covers any injury situations like we had in the autumn where he didn't have the right players to cover what positions could have an issue. So that's my team. Like I said, there's a couple of in there that I really sort of went back and forth with. The 10 one, Teddy Williams, and that was sort of trying to decide what is going to be the best way to sort of beat France and who deserves an opportunity as well. So yeah, that's my team, and I'd like to know what you guys think. The squad will be coming out next week, and I'll talk about that one when it does, but let me know what you think. I'll catch you on the next one.